time.
Hello everybody and welcome. I am the Shy Hat and we are HackerFrogs. Today we're doing HackerFrogs After School. We're going to be learning about Python programming. We're going to be learning with starting from absolute zero, and over the course of these workshops, there's going to be 8 of them in total, one each week. We're going to be running through each aspect of the Python programming language, and we're going to be writing our own programs. But before we can run, we have to learn how to walk, so we're going to be starting from the very beginning. All right, so as students come into the room to participate in the lesson, we're going to be doing a short introduction to what Python programming is and what differentiates Python from other programming languages. So everybody, let's start. All right, so HackerFrogs After School is a cybersecurity program for learning beginners' cybersecurity skills across a wide variety of subjects. This is the intro to Python programming. What is programming? According to Wikipedia, computer programming is the process of performing a particular computation, or more generally, accomplishing a specific computing result, usually by designing and building an executable computer program. Put in broader terms, programming is the process of writing instructions for a computer to execute. So the instructions can result in output as simple as printing the answer to a simple math equation or a word to the screen, or as complex as the latest video editing software, games, websites, and countless other pieces of software used in our daily lives. So programming is very important to modern day life. Many different programming languages are used for writing software, and each programming language has its own advantages and disadvantages for developing different types of software. The programming language we're going to learn to use in these workshops is called Python. So there are a lot of different programming languages out there, so why are we learning Python? We're going to go over 3 reasons. Number 1, Python is a very popular language with an active online community, so there's a lot of support for students. So Python being one of the most popular languages, one of the most popular programming languages out there, it's very easy to get help because there are a lot of people who are programming in Python, and there are large communities that for getting people who are learning Python to talk with other people who are learning Python. All right, number 2, Python uses a syntax that is much closer to written English than other programming languages, so it's easier to read and understand. So in Python programming, the way we create Python code looks a lot more natural and and a lot more like English sentences than some other programming languages, where the symbols and syntax can look kind of hard to read. And number 3, Python automates some tedious operations common to other programming languages, such as memory management. So Python hides away some functions of programming languages that other languages force you to deal with. Cheryl Dawson says, I have learned scripting languages, HTML, CSS, and do some PowerShell. Well, I'm glad to hear from you, Cheryl. I hope that means that learning Python is going to be easier for you because you have other programming languages under your belt. Okay, so what is Python as opposed to other programming languages? This is an overview. So Python is a high-level interpreted general-purpose programming language. So these are a lot of specialized words right here, but what do these words mean? So as far as high-level languages are concerned, programming languages are classified as either low-level or high-level, depending on how abstract the language is from the pure machine code that computer processors use. So each different processor inside a computer speaks a different machine language, and programming languages are a way of creating instructions that processor can understand. So the more abstract a language is, the more interpretation that has to be done before it can be processed by the processor. So programming in a high-level language has two major effects. So first, abstract syntax allows easier understanding for people who need to read code written in high-level languages and write code using the same. So if we use Python and we're using instructions that look more or less like English, it's going to be much easier for programmers to read and write as opposed to machine code, which is notoriously difficult to parse out. Second, due to high-level abstraction from machine language, processes using high-level languages are relatively slower than the same processes performed by low-level languages. So Python is not known for being a high-performance language, so the instructions are not run particularly fast. So that's not much of an issue for most software tasks, but in certain situations, Cheryl Dawson just subscribed. Thank you very much, Cheryl Dawson. Most of the time, low-level languages, the speed of Python is not really much of an issue, but sometimes you want to program in a lower-level language because those lower-level language instructions are going to be processed a lot faster by the computer. So in other words, high-level programming languages code is easier to write and read, but programs created with that code are slower than programs created with low-level languages. So that's what we mean when we say that Python is a high-level language. So Python is also an interpreted language. Interpreted languages are programming languages that do not require compilation before instructions are run. So when you run Python from the Python interpreter, you can basically type out a line and it's going to execute those commands immediately, as opposed to other languages where you have to use another program to compile the source code first before you're able to create a program that can be run. So compiled languages where programming code must be converted into machine code by a compilation program before it can be run. So if here we're creating a program using the C language, so we have to use a program to compile it, and then after it's been compiled, we can run the program to make it do something. Okay, and Python is also a general purpose language. General purpose programming languages are programming languages designed to be able to create a wide range of application types. So using Python, you can create all sorts of different programs, and they don't have to be all from one area. You can create a lot of different programs that fill a lot of different tasks. So as opposed to domain-specific programming languages, which typically are used to operate in specialized environments. So for example, if you're using HTML, which is a markup language, that's only going to be used when you're dealing with web pages. Likewise, this other language here called SQL is a database language, which is only useful inside of a database environment. So in the next part, we're going to be going over the part 1 of our workshop, where we're going to get hands-on with Python and start learning about how to use it. So everybody, at this time, I'd like to take attendance. If you are from the Black Girls Hack organization, please type BGH in chat. And if you're from the Women's Society of Cyberjitsu organization, please type WSC in chat, so I can tell those organizations which users came from came from which organizations to come and participate. Okay, so Cyberzab22. Okay, I see you. Tola Damilola. Thank you very much. Cheryl Dawson. Thank you very much. Kauro7747. Thank you very much. I see you. I see you. Okay, so let me just record this real fast. Okay, so we're going to move on to our first part over here. So we're talking about Python programming basics. This is the first part of an eight-part series. We're going to be going through a couple of different Python concepts each week. And this is the first intro. This is the first workshop for Intro to Python Programming. Let's begin. So we're talking about Hello World because that's the way programmers learn new languages. Programmers learning a language will usually write a Hello World program as their first exercise. To complete our Hello World exercise, we'll go over the Python print function first. So one of the first things you learn how to do when you're dealing with any language is how to print words to the screen. And in Python, we use the print function. Virtually all programming languages have some method of printing text to the screen, often referred to as the console. In Python, the print function is the primary method of doing so. So this is an instruction in Python here. It's going to be print, and then you're going to have some parentheses. So the print function always uses these parentheses over here. And if you wanted to print a string, which is some text, you need to encase the text inside of either single quotes or double quotes. And then whatever you want to print is included in the middle over here. To use the print function, we use the function name, print, then a pair of parentheses, then encase what we want printed in either single or double quotes between the parentheses. So right now I'm going to introduce a website to you to use to write your own Python code, and this is called onlinepython.com. So when you visit this website over here, you're going to be able to write some Python code inside this main.py window right here. And when you're finished and you want to run it, you just have to click on the run button over here, and it's going to run the code inside the window. So right now, let's print something. So what you want to do is type print. Let me make this window a little bit bigger for everybody, and that'll make it okay. And that'll make it a little bit easier to read. All right, so it's print and then a pair of parentheses, and then you're going to want to use some quotes. It's either single quotes or double quotes. It doesn't matter if it's single quotes or double quotes, you just need to make sure that they're both the same type of quote. And then this is something I want to print. And so you can basically print anything you want here. And when you're done, you just need to click on the run button over here, and you see that this is the output of the program right here. So this is something I want to print, and we were able to output this because we wrote this instruction right here, print, along with the parentheses and the quotes and whatever we wanted to print inside the quotes over here. All right, so everybody give it a try yourself, and if you're able to get something printed successfully, okay, you hit the run button and something's printed to the console, please type in the chat, I printed something, and add some smileys. I always like to see smileys in the chat. So everybody give it a try. So CyberApps22 printed something. Good to see, good to see. All right, so the next thing we need to know about print functions is that you can use the print function to print the values of variables to the console, as well as just specifying some text to print out. In this case, we simply put the name of the variable we want printed between the parentheses. So we're gonna go over what variables are in a little bit later. But first of all, let's try solving the hello world problem. Cheryl Dawson also printed something. Nice to see. Nice to see. All right. So the syntax for the print function requires parentheses to work properly. If omitted, Python will display an error message when run. So whenever we print something, Kyro747 says it didn't work for me. Kyro747, why don't you copy the code that you tried to print and paste it into the chat, and we'll try to troubleshoot it for you. Okay. So remember that we need to include the parentheses when we use the print function, otherwise it's not going to work. So basically, in Python, any function that you use has to include parentheses, otherwise it's not going to work. Print. This is something I want to print, but this should print. That I'm not too sure why it wouldn't print for you. This is something I want to print. Let me copy that. And let me paste it into the online Python window. So I clicked run, and it worked. It worked in this window. I'm not too sure why it wouldn't work for you. This is something I want to print. So one thing you want to do when you're trying to troubleshoot any of your Python code is if for some reason there's going to be some error. So if we try to run this without the parentheses, it's going to give you an error message over here. It says syntax error, missing parentheses in call to print. Did you mean print this over here? So usually inside the error message, it's going to give you some text over here. Kyro747, can you tell me which error message you received? Why don't you try copying the error message and pasting it into chat? Okay, so let's so while we're waiting for that, let's move on. So also, if we print text, we have to use either single quotes or double quotes to wrap what we want to print. So we can either use the single quotes over here or the double quotes over here to print something, but we have to make sure that the quotes match. So we're using double quotes with double quotes and single quotes with single quotes. Okay, so let's learn more with learnpython.org. So what the primary learning source that we're going to be using in these lessons is going to be the learnpython.org website. It's a free Python learning resource, so that's why I chose to use that as opposed to other sources. Learnpython.org. Kyro707 says, maybe because I went to the link you gave there was all... Oh, okay. There was already a bunch of other stuff there. Yes, yes. Okay, so when you first go to onlinepython.com, there's going to be a bunch of stuff here already. I'm sorry I didn't mention that. I'm sorry I didn't mention that before. So when you first come to the website over here, there's already going to be some code over here. What you need to do is you need to highlight everything and erase it before you start writing your own code. Sorry for the confusion there, Kyro747. I should have anticipated that. Okay, so we're going to be using learnpython.org to conduct our lessons and learn about the different concepts over here. So I'm going to click on this lesson, Hello World, and I'm going to leave the link for that in the chat so that you can navigate over there and we can work through this lesson together. Okay, so one very convenient thing about the learnpython.org website is that it contains these interactive Python windows throughout the lessons over here. and these are going to allow you to write Python code inside the windows and then run them. One thing about this website is that sometimes the interactive Python windows can get stuck, and in that case, you're going to need to reload the page before you can try again. So you can go ahead and in the first Python window over here, you can just hit run, and it's going to print whatever is in the quotes over here. So you can basically make this anything you want. So this could be rutabaga and avocado, and you can print that. But one thing you can't do is you can't put quotes inside of these quotes. This is quoted quote. Okay, if you try to run this is going to give you an error because when you're working with Python, it's going to interpret this as the end of the quote and then this as a separate thing. So in this case, you can still use these double quotes in this sentence, but you have to make sure that you are wrapping it with single quotes. So just like this. So this is how you're able to work around that. Okay, so this next section over here talks about indentation. We don't necessarily have to deal with indentation at this time. Later, when we deal with code blocks, we're going to be using indentation to write out code blocks. All you need to know right now is that whenever we do indentation inside of code, that means that we're going to be writing out a code block. And for now, you can just ignore this section on indentation. We're going to move on to the exercise, and the only thing we need to do inside the exercise is to use the print function to write the line "Hello World." All right, so everybody, I want you to give this a go yourself, and if you're able to solve it, and after you click the submit button, it says, I think it says something like problem solved. Go ahead and type some smileys in chat so that I know that you solved the exercise. Or you can type the word "Hello World." If anybody needs any of the links to the different websites, go ahead and ask in the chat, and I'll try to get them to you as quickly as I can. So all we need to do for this exercise is use the print function to print the line "Hello World." It has to be this exact syntax in order for it to work. Okay, Cheryl Dawson appears to be done. Great, good job. All right. And we'll wait a little bit longer before I demonstrate how to solve the problem over here. Okay, CyberAbs22 has finished, apparently. Thank you very much. All right, so all you need to do is highlight goodbye and replace it with hello, and then click on the submit button, and that's going to solve the exercise. Okay, and it says great job, which means that we are finished. Okay, all right, so now that we've finished Hello World and we learned how to use the print function, we're going to do a short quiz. I know everybody loves quizzes. Okay, so question number 1, when we use the print function to print text, should we use single quotes or double quotes? So your options are A, you should only use single quotes. You should only use double quotes. B, you should only use single quotes. C, you should use either single quotes or double quotes. Or D, neither. You should use backticks. All right, so everybody, which letter do you think the answer is in this case? Okay, CyberAbs22 says C, Cheryl Dawson says C, Cower747 says C, The answer is C. You can use either single quotes or double quotes, but you have to remember that you have to use the same quote to wrap on either side. You can't mix them up. Tola Damilola, and is also all right. Everybody seems to have gotten the answer correct. And we have one more question. What happens if you use the print function without parentheses? A. The print function will still work. B. An error message appears at runtime. C. Parentheses only affect whether or not there are parentheses in the output. And D. None of the above. Which one of these is the correct answer? Particular Particule Dedu says, good evening, Particule Dedu. All right, so what is the answer here? CyberAbs22 says B, Karu747 says B, Tola Damilola says B, and the answer is, I didn't print out the, okay. The answer is B, an error message appears at runtime. All right, so everybody, good work. Okay, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move swiftly on over to variables. So anybody who has heard of programming in any language has probably heard about variables. And virtually all programming languages use variables, which are storage locations associated with a specific name, as well as value. Take the following as an example. So we've got one variable over here called my_name, and here it's equal to the string called shyhat. All right, so the variable my_name has been assigned the value of the string shyhat. All right, so here, wherever we refer to my_name in the code, shyhat, or this string shyhat, will be inserted there. So if we have the following code, my name equals shyhat, and we say print my name, which is the name of the variable, the output should be shyhat. All right, so if we were to go to onlinepython.com and we were to assign a variable fruit, so fruit equals, and then we're going to put in the double quotes, strawberry, and then we were to use a print function to print fruit. This is going to, the output of this print function should be strawberry. So if we run this, it prints out strawberry as expected. Okay, so this is variable assignment. Let's go back to the presentation. So the real benefit of using variables in programming is that a variable can be referenced multiple. Particule Dedu says no return in Python. Not for this particular function. Usually we use return in other functions, but not the print function. The real benefit of using variables in programming is that variables can be referenced multiple times in the same code. So we can name the variable in the code multiple times, and each time it's going to remember the value of the variable, which saves a lot of time and accounting while we're writing code. In addition, variables can change value after they've been defined. So if I were to say, inside of my window over here, I'm going to say fruit equals strawberry, and then I'm going to print the fruit, and then I'm going to do this again, and this is the same variable. It's this time I'm going to say watermelon, and then I'm going to print fruit after. So we should see strawberry, and then it's going to print, and then we define fruit as watermelon, and then we're going to print again. It should be updated, and it should print out watermelon the second time. So we're going to run the code, and it's going to say strawberry, and then it's going to say watermelon, because we changed the value of fruit inside of the code. All right, so let's go back. So for example, say we have an online store program where we sell televisions. So we've got a program where we sell televisions, and the program has two variables. So there's TV price, which is the price of a television, and current total, which keeps track of the total price of the user's shopping cart. So we've got the price of the TV and we've got the running total for how much we have to pay. The two variables are set to 199.99 and 0, respectively. So 199.99 is the price of the TV and 0 is the current total. However, if a TV is purchased, then the total price variable increases by a value equal to the TV price variable. So, for example, TV price equals 199.99. Current total equals 0. If we do current total equals the current total plus the TV price, and then we print out current total, the output should be 199.99. Okay, so if we were to copy this text and go into the online Python window over here, this should print out 199.99. So we're going to hit print, and we get the expected output. All right. So how do we name variables? So there are a couple of rules that we need to stick to when we're naming variables, otherwise we're going to have a bad time. So in this example, we see two examples. One example is the variable A is equal to "we are HackerFrogs," as opposed to the second example, which is HF's, which stands for HackerFrogs. Slogan is "we are HackerFrogs." So here we see that first, variable names should be as short as possible while still describing its value. So A is very short, but it's not very descriptive. It doesn't tell you what the variable is supposed to be. So letters like A and X are sometimes okay variable names. So sometimes when you're doing math, you can use variable names like A and X, but most of the time variable names should be descriptive. So they should be short and they should describe what they're trying to describe. So another thing that we have to take note of when we're naming variables is that there's a list of keywords used in Python which cannot be used as variable names, otherwise your program won't run. So if I were to write a program about high school, I could make a variable called class and call it economics. So if I go up here and I'm going to say class equals economics, and I try to run this, it's going to give me an error that says invalid syntax, and that's because the word class can't be used as a variable name because it's already a keyword inside of Python. So in the same case, capital T true, pineapple pizza is the best, cannot be used as a variable name in Python because this is also a keyword. So we can't name variables like this. So here's a short list of keywords that could be mistakenly used as variable names. So these are all keywords inside of Python, and you can't use any of these words as variable names. So we've got true and false, finally, import, return, continue, class, break. These are all keywords in the programming language, and you can't name variables any of these words. Okay, to get around this restriction, we could prepend any name that we suspect could be a keyword with my underscore. So we can't use the word class as a variable name, but we can use my class, my underscore class, and we can't use true, but we could use my underscore true, because these are definitely not keywords inside of Python. All right, so another thing we have to learn about is data types. Data types are attributes of data which tell the compiler or interpreter how to use the data. The data types covered in this workshop are as follows. So when we're talking about data types, we're talking about things like strings and integers and floats. So right now, all you need to worry about is these three types of data. And the first one is strings. Strings are non-numerical characters, or a combination of numerical and non-numerical characters. For example, the name Mark Twain, this password over here, password 123 with a bunch of characters, special characters, and the word caret. So basically, whenever you see something inside of Python that is encased in quotes, either single quotes or double quotes, that's usually going to be a string. And this is a special this is a special data type inside of Python. Next are integers. So also in Python, they usually refer to strings as str. So when you see the word str, it usually refers to strings. Next, we're going to talk about integers, otherwise known as int. These are whole numbers without any decimal places. So these are whole numbers, just like you learned in mathematics. Either 1 or 255 or 1337. And the last data type we're going to be talking about is floating point numbers, otherwise known as floats. These are numbers that are accurate to several decimal places. So anytime you see a number that includes a decimal, Python is going to interpret that number as a float over here. Okay, so strings, integers, and floats. So the reason why data types are important is because computers do not inherently know how to interpret data. So for example, if you have a program which calculates the average of school grades, by that we mean that it adds all grades together, then divides the sum by the number of assignments. So if we've got a program which calculates the average of school grades, the program wouldn't work if it was given words instead of numbers for the grades. So if the program is expecting numbers like 87, 50, and 99, and you give it the word, and you give it letter grades like A, B, C+, then the program isn't going to be able to interpret those letters instead of the numbers. But because there are data types, we can have the program check that all the grades are numbers, and if there's a non-number in the input, we can inform the user that the program only accepts numbers for input and prompt the user to input another value. So this is an example of an error message in the case that that you're trying to put something that is not a number in the grades variable. Okay. All right. So one last thing we need to one last handy thing we can learn about right now is the type function. So there's a handy function called type in Python that can be used to check what data a given object is. So if so here we create some variables, and the variables are going to be equal to the type function along with some data. So here we've got the string HackerFrogs, and here we've got the type, which is the number 1, and then here we've got a float, which is the type, which is the type of 3.14, and then we give the program the instruction to print these variables right here, and it's going to tell us that this is the first one is a str string, the second one is an integer, and the third one is a float. And 3.14 is classified as a float. So if inside of Python, they're going to be talking about data types all the time. They're going to say that this is a string or this is an int, and you're allowed to do this with strings, and you're not allowed to do this with integers. This is something you're going to have to get used to. So the last thing that we're going to learn is another very helpful function, which is called input, where users type something in. So here we've got a variable called favefruit, and it's equal to the input, what is your favorite fruit? And then that prompts the user to type something in, and then we're going to print out the statement your favorite fruit is, and then we're going to print the variable that was just defined. So your favorite fruit is whatever was typed in. If you run the program, it's going to give you a prompt right here. What is your favorite fruit? And then you can type out whatever you want the favorite fruit to be. And then it's going to say that, it's going to print the message, your favorite fruit is, and then it's going to insert the variable over here. So your favorite fruit is pineapple. Okay, so this function, it lets users turn their input into a variable. This is a typical example of prompting user input and can be used to assign variables. So everybody, before we move on, let's give this a go. So in the onlinepython.com window, and if you don't have that link, I'm going to provide it in the chat for everybody. Remember, when you load up the website, there's going to be some code already here. What I want you to do is I want you to highlight it and delete all the code. And now we're going to create our own input variable. So in this case, let's do favorite song. So favorite song is the name of the variable, and we're going to make it equal to input. And input has to be used with the parentheses here. And then after that, in the parentheses, we're going to put some quotes, and we're going to ask a question inside of these quotes. So here it's going to be, what is your favorite song? So remember, it's going to be input and then parentheses and then quotes and a question inside of the quotes over here. And we're asking the user for their favorite song. And then afterwards, we want to print your favorite song is, and then we do plus, and then we do fave song. All right, so everybody, what I want you to do is I want you to try writing code that looks similar to this, but it doesn't have to be fave song. It could be what's your age? Oh no, don't do what's your age. Don't. Actually, no. You can do what's your age. What's your age, or what's your name, or anything else. Try to name the variable something that is relevant. So if it's your age, you could use my age as the variable name, and it's going to equal input, and then ask the question over here, and then print something relevant, your age is, or your name is, inside of these quotes, and then plus, and then the variable name that you used in the previous line. So for example, if we run this, it's going to ask, what is your favorite song? And I'm going to say, oh, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And then it prints out this message right here. Your favorite song is Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Okay. So everybody, I want you to try this out. So on the Online Python website over here, delete all the previous code, and then try writing your own input variable over here, and try printing out a little message, which includes the input variable here as part of the output over here for your print. And then I want you to run the program. So if you run the program, it should print out your question over here, along with your answer, and then you type in the answer, and then it should give you the message, which includes your answer inside of the output. So okay, so everybody try this out, and if you're able to get some good output out of this, please type some smileys in chat and type input and then some more smileys. All right, so everybody, please give that a go and see if you can successfully get the input function to work. If you're having some trouble, please type in the chat and let us know what kind of error message appeared when you tried to run the program inside the online Python website. So you could do your name. Okay, Cyberzab 22 is done. Kyber 747 is done. Okay, so print your name is, and then plus your name. Okay, so here it's going to ask us 2 questions. All right, so let's try running this. Your name equals input what is your name, print your name is plus your name. Okay. So what's your favorite song? My favorite song is Happy Birthday. And then it asks me what is my name. My name is the Shy Hat. Your favorite song is Happy Birthday. Your name is the Shy Hat. Okay. Cheryl Dawson appears to be done as well. Good job. Good job, everybody. All right. So let's. If anybody has any questions about this code or how to use this function over here, please please let us know in the chat. I'd hate to I would hate to leave anybody confused. So if you have any questions, please ask. All right. Let's. But in the meantime, let's move on. So we're going to be doing the variables and types exercise. We're going to cover the next few exercises on the Learn Python website. So it's going to be this link right here. If we go over to Learn Python, we can click on the next tutorial button right here. I will provide this link in the chat. Everybody, please navigate to the link that I'm pasting into the chat. And at this time, I see we have more students coming into the lesson right now. If you could please tell us which organization that you're with, please type it in the chat. So if you're with BGH, Black Girls Hack, please type BGH in the chat. And if you're with Women's Society for Cyberjitsu, please type WSC in chat. Because they want me to take attendance for this workshop. So if you could please type that in chat, that would help me out a lot. Okay, so we're moving on to this variables and types section in learnpython.org. First off, let's go over numbers. So Python supports 2 types of numbers: integers, which are known as whole numbers, and floating point numbers, which are sometimes called decimals. Okay, so here we've got my int equals 7, and we're going to print my int, and it just says 7. But remember, we can also print out the type that is my int. And we expect this to give us the word int. So we're going to run this again. It says 7, and then it says class equals int. So we're able to retrieve the type, the data type of this variable with the type function over here. Okay, next here we see a floating point number. So we can use one of the following notations. Either it's 7.0. Or we could say float 7. Okay, this here is another function inside of Python, which interprets whatever is passed over to the function as a float. So if we were to print this, it prints my float, which is 7.0, and then it prints my float as a float, which is a decimal number. In both cases, it's going to say 7.0. And if we were to print type and my float, then this is going to tell us that it is a float. Okay, so we're going to run this, and it says class float. So we're able to check what type of data this is with the type function. And lastly, we have strings. So strings are defined with either single quotes or double quotes. So remember, strings are bits of text, and you can tell that something is a string because it is encased in single quotes or double quotes. So here we're going to print these things. In both cases, these strings are printed out and they say hello. We can check one more time. Print type and my string. So we're going to check what data type is in my string over here. So my string over here says hello. We're going to check the type at the end here, and it says class str, which stands for string. Okay, so the difference between the two is that using double quotes makes it easier to include apostrophes, which would terminate the string if we were using single quotes. Okay, so here we have an apostrophe, a single quote, but it's okay. So we can include it because it's wrapped up in double quotes. Just like if we were to use double quotes, if we were to use single quotes to wrap up this string, then we could use double quotes in here. So my string equals, and then we're going to use single quotes. This is quoted, and we were able to run this because print my string. Okay, so we're able to do this because we're using alternating quotes, I guess we could say, in order to print these out. There are additional variations in defining strings. Okay, so another thing we could do is we can print things together with little plus symbols and minus symbols. Well, usually it's just plus symbols. In this case, 1 is equal to the integer 1, 2 is equal to the integer 2, and 3 equals 1 plus 2. So Python is going to interpret this as 1 plus 2. We're doing a little bit of math. If we print 3, then this is going to print out as the number 3. And in the case of strings, and we're to use strings, we're to print strings plus strings, it's going to add the strings together. So let's run this, and we should see the number 3 and hello space world over here. And that's what appears. So if you have any questions about how this code works, go ahead and type in the chat, and if you have any questions about any specific thing. All right, so assignments can be done on more than one variable simultaneously in a line like this. So here we're assigning the variable A and the variable B at the same time. So most of the time we want to avoid. Okay, so Tola Demilola asks, is that a universal rule for spaces? Okay, so I think you're talking about this example right here. So if we were to, so here we were able to print out hello world because we were able to add this to the middle over here. So if we were to just run this as hello world equals hello plus world, then there's not going to be a space between the words, and it's not going to look as nice. But let me copy this. It looks like, yeah, it says session broken. So I'm going to click on the restart session button. Hopefully that's going to work. Okay, and then we're going to run this, and then there's not going to be any spaces over here. But the thing is that if we want to include a space, we could do hello plus, what was it, plus, and then we include a space like this, and then we add this over here. and then we see the space over here, or we could add a space to hello, add the space over here, and then we're going to get our space that way as well. But yeah, so you're going to have to manually add in the space one way or the other. Here we're talking about assigning variables simultaneously. So you can assign the variable names simultaneously. Like here we're assigning A and B at the same time, but usually I would avoid this because it looks a bit messy, and usually I like to do one instruction per line instead of several instructions per line. But it is possible. This is possible. Okay, in the next window over here, it says mixing operators between strings, numbers, and strings is not supported. Okay, so one thing we have to understand is that data types cannot be mixed in Python. You cannot mix integers with strings, and you cannot mix integers with strings or floats with strings. But you can mix integers with floats. So you can mix up numbers without a decimal point with numbers with a decimal point, but you can't mix up strings like hello with the numbers 1 and 2 over here. So if we try to print this out, it's going to give us an error, and it says unsupported operand types for int, integer, and string. So, but the thing is that we can actually solve this problem. Because in this case, we can force 1 and 2 to be interpreted as strings with a particular function, which is the str function. So str on 1 is going to interpret 1, this variable here, as a string. And if we go to 2 and we str that one as well, then the function is going to interpret 2 as a string as well, in which case we can print all these out together. So if we were to run this, it says 1, 2, hello, because we're not printing this out as an integer, we're printing it out as a string, because we forced it to with the string function. Okay, if you have any questions about this please let us know. We'll try to explain it as best we can. We're going to move on to the exercise for this section over here. And it looks like we might go over the hour mark by a little bit. I hope everybody can stay for a little bit longer so we can finish off the lesson. Okay, so let's do the exercise. The target of this exercise is to create a string, an integer, and a floating point number. The string should be named myString and should contain the word hello. The floating point number should be named myFloat and should contain the number 10.0, and the integer should be named myInt and should contain the number 20. Okay, so everybody, all you need to do in this challenge is to modify these 3 lines right here and then click on the submit button. So everybody, we're going to give you about a minute to solve this challenge, and if you solve the challenge, type in the message, "I'm done." So what you need to do is you need to modify this code to match the instructions over here. So my string should be hello, my float should be 10.0, and my int should be the number 20. After you modify the code, click on submit, and you should be finished. Okay, so I'm going to start solving the exercise over here. So everybody, if you're able to get this done before me, let us know in chat and you will be awesome. Okay, so my string is supposed to contain the word hello. So all we need to do is put hello in between some quotes over here. And then my float has to be equal to 10.0. So we just need to insert the value 10.0 over here. So that is a float. And my int has to be the number 20. So we just need to highlight this and include the number 20. And then we click on submit. And it prints out these values and it says, great job. Okay. All right, so everybody, let's, Cheryl Dawson is done. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good to see. All right, so everybody, let's skip on over to the end of the lesson. We're going to have one more little quiz. Which of the following about naming variables is true? So which one of these is true? Python keywords should never be used as variable names. B, using single letter variable names should be use single letter variable names as much as possible. C, variables that contain numbers should be named in uppercase letters and variables with text should be named in lowercase letters. Or D, none of the above. So which of the following about naming variables is true? All right, so we see one A, we see another A, we see another A. The answer is A. So remember that there are certain keywords in Python like class, def, true, false, none, and these should never be used as variable names. And question number 2, which of the following is not a Python data type? A, strings. Letters are combinations of letters and numbers which are encased in single or double quotes. B, integers, whole numbers such as 1, 1337, and 256. If put between quotes, they become strings. C, floats, floating point numbers, numbers with decimal points such as 0.0, 5.285, and 3.16. And HackerFrogs, folks who like hacking and live streams. Which one is not a Python data type? Okay, we see one D, another D, another D. Okay, so the answer is D. All right, so everybody, let's move on to our workshop review exercise. So everybody, before we do today's workshop review exercise, I'm going to pass out the survey for today's workshop. Everybody, if you are from the BGH organization, please fill out the survey at this link right here. And if you're from the WSC organization, please fill out the survey at this link right here. If you fill out the survey, that lets the organizations know if I'm doing a good job or if I'm doing a bad job. I like to improve my teaching wherever I can. So if you can fill out that survey, I would be much obliged. Okay, so the workshop review exercise. So we're going to be writing a fairly complicated exercise compared to the stuff we've been doing in the rest of today's workshop, but I believe that you should all be able to get this done. We're going to create a program that records and prints out a user's account profile. So we're going to need to define 3 variables in the program. Those are going to be your underscore name, your underscore age, and your underscore fave underscore food. So to define the variables, we're going to use the input function. Then at the end of the program, we'll print out a statement like this. So your name is name, you are age, years old, and your favorite food is favorite food. So we're going to use input 3 times to get the answers to these values right here, and then we're going to print out this sentence. So an example of the program should print something like this. Your name is HackerFrog, and you are 1337 years old, and your favorite food is deli sandwiches. Whoops. Okay, so everybody, I want you to try writing this program inside of the online Python website over here. So all you need to do is create 3 of these inputs over here, and then create a print statement. So it's going to be, what are the variables one more time? Whoops. Okay, your underscore name, your underscore age, and your underscore fave underscore food. So I'm going to provide the answer, the first little bit of code over here, and I'd like you to finish off the program. Okay. So remember, the full sentence should be, your name is name. Okay, so everybody, I'll give you a couple of minutes to write this program. You should follow this this template right here. So input equals the question you want to ask. I guess in this case it would be, what is your name? And then use this pattern for the rest of the variables over here. And then lastly, we're going to write out this sentence. Your name is plus variable 1 plus some string and variable 2 plus some string plus variable 3. If you're able to finish this, please type in the chat, I did it, and some smiley faces. If you're having troubles, please let us know in chat, and we'll try to answer your questions as best we can. So this can get a little bit tricky because we're combining a bunch of strings with some variable names and more strings. So this can get a little bit confusing. Okay, so let's see if this is the correct output right here. So your name is plus your name plus and you are your age, years old, and your favorite food is your favorite food plus, and then the period at the end. Okay, so let's try running this this program. Okay, we're going to run the program. It's going to ask us, what's your name? And my name is the Shy Hat. And then it asks, what is your age? I'm going to say I'm 1337. And it's going to ask for my favorite food. I'm going to say sushi. And then it's going to say your name is the Shy Hat and you are 1337 years old and your favorite food is sushi. All right. So to anybody who wants this I'm going to copy this code over to the chat right now, and you can try, if you weren't able to do the exercise, you can try plugging this in. And this should, you might need to reformat this a little bit inside of the code editor. But everybody, let's move on to the summary for today's lesson. All right. Let's review the programming concepts we learned in this workshop. Okay, so we wrote the Hello World program in Python, which is the first program students write for any computer language. Also, we learned how to use the Python print function, which prints information to the console and is common to almost all programs written in Python. And we learned about variables. We learned about programming variables named storage locations, which hold specific values, which can be referenced multiple times in a program. And lastly, we learned about data types, which include strings, non-numeric text, integers, which are whole numbers, and floats, numbers which include decimal places. Oh, it seems that I'm going to resend the code for the program inside of YouTube. Oh, YouTube won't let me send this message because it's too long. That's weird. But let's see. So what's next? In the next HackerFrogs After School Programming Workshop, we're going to continue learning Python with the Learn Python website. In the next workshop, we're going to learn Python lists, list methods, and basic arithmetic operations. So if you take a look at the HackerFrogs website, and I'm going to leave a link for the schedule to the Python workshop schedule. This is in the HackerFrogs subreddit over here. We see that we're over here, session 1 next week is session 2, and there's going to be a total of 8 sessions altogether, and they're all going to be on Monday, starting at the same time. And during each session, we're going to be covering different topics. For example, in the next session, we're going to be talking about Python lists and list methods, which are specific commands we can give with Python lists. And then we're going to talk about arithmetic operators inside of Python. We did a little bit of it today with our adding strings and adding numbers together, but we're also going to be talking about subtraction, multiplication, division, and doing other types of math operations inside of Python as well. But that is it for today's workshop. Thank you very much to everybody who attended today, from the Black Girls Hack and the Women's Society for Cyberjitsu organizations. A big shout out to those two organizations for providing students to learn, and we'll be back next week. We'll be back next week for another Python programming session, but in the meantime, we're going to be having a couple of other live streams this week as well. So let's take a look at the schedule for this week as far as live streams are concerned. So today is June 3rd, and we're doing the Python Programming Basics live stream. On Wednesday, June 5th, we're going to be doing our extra credit for Python 1, which is going to be doing some easy Python challenges with PicoCTF. So if you want to get some extra practice in using Python, we're going to be doing another workshop. We're going to be doing another workshop on June 5th, where we're going to be using the PicoCTF education platform to do some easy Python challenges. And on Friday, we're going to be doing some free hacking. We're going to be using the Hack the Box cybersecurity education platform, and we're going to be doing some of their starting point exercises over there. So if you have time, please come on by, and we would love to see you in the chat and learning a lot about cybersecurity with us. All right, so everybody, thank you very much for attending today, and we'll see you next time. If you're able to come over to the stream on Wednesday, I would really appreciate that. But everybody, have a great day, and we'll see you in the next stream.